We're talking about how to get started in fiction editing. And in order to talk about fiction editing, there's two definitions that we need to get out of the way. What is fiction and what is editing? First of all, fiction really at its most basic level is just storytelling. It's communicating a truth through a story that has characters, a plot, and some element of universal human experience. The second thing to consider is what is editing? There's lots of different definitions of editing, and we've covered several of them here at Lit World, but for the purposes of this conversation, what editing means is content development. So we're not talking about acquisitions or copy editing specifically, but working with an author to help them accomplish their goals for their manuscript. There's a couple of ground rules to get out of the way when you're talking about editing fiction. Number one is, it is impossible to be an effective fiction editor if you aren't a voracious fiction reader. You have to love to read if you're going to be able to edit. Number two is that you have to have a good relationship with the author. If you don't have a relationship with the author, if you have never met the author or talked with the author, it's impossible to find out what their goals are for the manuscript, and you can't be an effective editor if you don't know the author's goals. Number three, it's important to have an understanding of the value of fiction. A lot of people don't understand that fiction is, in fact, a valuable contribution to the world of publishing. Well, fiction is a historical genre. It is, I believe, a biblical genre. I mean, what is the Bible, after all, but a story? It starts out in the beginning. It's just like once upon a time, except it really happened, and it's the word of truth, and it's the word of God. So what are the 5 steps for starting out with editing fiction? Well, number one is simple. Read the manuscript. Number two is almost as simple. Review the manuscript. Come up with a list of things that are good, things that need work, and then a list of recommendations for how you want to address the areas of weakness. Number three is go through the editorial process. Start with the big issues and work your way toward the small issues. Get the author involved, and then at the end, step 4, get the author's approval. Step 5 is make sure that you copy edit. Focus on the details, bring it all the way to the finish line, make sure there's no errors left in there for the reader to stumble over. There are 3 reminders that I want to leave people with as they're thinking about starting out with editing fiction. Number one is don't be intimidated. It's a tough process, but you're an important person doing an important job, working with other important people to accomplish an important goal. Number 2, don't forget the value of reading. Read as much as you can. Read a book a month and review it if possible. Always try to read something that you maybe haven't been exposed to before, because if you're going to be an effective editor, you've absolutely got to have a good concept of what the current fiction market looks like. And finally, don't forget the value of fiction. Fiction speaks to the heart, and ultimately it's in the heart where the seeds of the gospel of truth are going to take root.